the ground shake.
So in this video I'm going to be looking at 3 of the new German tanks that are coming into update 1.11, and they are the Panzer 4A, which you're seeing right now. Second is the Panzer 4D. And last but not least is the Jagdpanther 2. This tank I've been waiting for a long time. I'm finally glad that it's here. So let's see where these tanks fit in the tech tree. So here we are on the German tech tree, and just first having a look at where the new tier 3 and 4 tanks are. So the tier 3, the Panzer 4A, leads off from the Panzer 3A, and the Panzer 4D leads off right from the Panzer 4A, and then the Panzer 4D goes directly to the Panzer 4 at tier 5. So the Panzer 4's now got 2 routes to get to the tank, either the medium route or a light route. And the Jagdpanther 2 is now basically the main route to the Jagdtiger. The Ferdinand's now kind of become an intersection again. There's an alternative because the Ferdinand, you can get the Ferdinand from the Tiger P, and then it leads on to the Jagdtiger if you want to change your mind. But now the Jagdpanther 2 I think is the main tank that you get after tier 7. The reviews of the lower tier tanks are going to go pretty quickly because, as you can see, the armor's terrible, so there's no point in showing an armor inspector, and I really couldn't get into a game with these tanks, so they can't really use any gameplay. So starting off with the Panzer 4A, this tank is the tier 3, and it gets 400 hit points. It's got 14mm of hull arm all around, 30 turret front, and then the rest is 14, which is pretty terrible. I mean, anything that shoots at you will be able to penetrate you, so you shouldn't really rely on your armor much. And yeah, I guess that's it for the armor. That was quick. Moving on to the gun, the top gun on this tank is a 75mm. It's got 6.33 rounds a minute, which is absolutely awful. 10-second reload. I don't think that's really worth it for a 75. I mean, we had that at the Panzer 3-4 up at tier 5, and I just didn't like it at all. So it's got penetration of 43mm with AP, which I really don't like. Heat, it gets heat ammo, which is actually better than APCR. It's got 87mm of heat penetration and 38 with HE, which actually isn't bad. So the average damage is 160 with AP and heat, and 200 with HE. The accuracy is 0.45, which is also terrible, but the aim time is absolutely amazing at 1.9 seconds. The gun is kind of all over the place. It's got amazing aim time, terrible accuracy, good average damage, good HE penetration, terrible rate of fire, and average armor piercing penetration. I don't know why, but I just don't like this tank at all, and I probably won't like the Panzer 4D. So lastly, the mobility of this tank. The Panzer 4A weighs 18 tons. It's got 350 horsepower engine, which is really good. It's got 42 km speed limit, which is not bad, but not great for a medium tank. Good traverse speed of 40 and good turret traverse speed of 44. So this thing has a pretty decent power to weight ratio. It will reach its top speed pretty easily, I'd say. And yeah, maneuverability wise, it's actually pretty good. I think it's just the gun that lets it down for me. So moving on to the Panzer 4D. Here we have the Panzer 4D. It gets 560 health. It's got an increase in armor, 30 front, 20 sides, 20 rear. Same with the turret, but 30mm at most is still pretty terrible. So you're still going to get penetrated by almost every tier 4. And you're just not going to make use of your armor. You've got that massive cupola on the top of your turret as well, so there's that. So let's move on to the gun. The Panzer 4D also gets a 75mm gun. It looks like just an improved version of the 75 on the Panzer 4A, but the only thing that's really improved drastically for me is the penetration and the accuracy. This gun gets 6.52 rounds a minute, which isn't really much of an improvement, but it's still an improvement nonetheless over the Panzer IV-A. It's got 103mm of penetration, which is absolutely a massive improvement. It's got APCR of 139 and HE of 38. Still does the same 160, 160, 200 damage, but this time the accuracy is better by 0.03 or 0.42. But the aim time's gone up to 2.3 from 1.9 on the Panzer IV-A. Finally, moving on to the mobility, it weighs 21.11 tons. It's got 440 horsepower engine, which isn't actually bad. The same 42 speed limit, 40 traverse, and 44 turret traverse as the Panzer IV-A. And yeah, I think it's still pretty decent in terms of maneuverability. This one is actually not as bad as the Panzer IV-A, but still pretty subpar in my opinion. And finally, we move on to the beast that is the Jagdpanther 2. This will be the new Tier 8 tank destroyer for the Germans, and it's kind of going to be the new main route to the Jagdtiger, whereas the Ferdinand will become an alternative. So the Jagdpanther 2 is basically the opposite of the Ferdinand. It's got the speed, it's got the maneuverability, but it hasn't got much of the armor. It's got the same gun. So yeah, let's have a look at its stats. So the Jagdpanther 2 has 1,150 hit points, which is not bad for a tier 8 TD. I think it's probably the highest, one of the highest up there. At least it's not as low as the ISU 152. And it's got millimeters of frontal armor, 60 at the sides and 40 at the rear. And that's pretty bad, but let's have a look at that in Armor Inspector. So here we have the Jagdpanther 2 in Armor Inspector, and you can see the upper front plate immediately just has no armor at all. Anything that shoots at you is going to penetrate, except for maybe the Easy 8 or the, I don't know, probably just the Easy 8. And then you can see the superstructure of the tank is very well armored. It's got 250mm of armor. The superstructure slopes back at around 50 degrees, with 58 degrees actually, which makes it the effective, which gives it good effective armor. So this means tier 8s will have troubles going through this, tier 9s will kind of have trouble, and then tier 10s probably shouldn't. So if you can get hull down in this tank, it's gonna be pretty decent for you. The thing is that the Jagdpanther 2 does have -6 gun depression, which isn't that great, but it's not bad, as it's still workable. Next we move on to the gun. It's got the same gun as the Ferdinand, but it's got slightly better characteristics. It's got better rate of fire at 5.53, it's got the same penetration, it's got the 246mm penetration with AP, 311 with APCR, it's got 460 average damage with AP and APCR, 600 with HE, and the accuracy is 0.35 with a 2.3 second aiming time. So this means you can actually choose to snipe if you want to, because this is a relatively accurate gun, or you can choose to go a bit more front line, but I wouldn't really recommend that, considering this is a tank with pretty terrible armor. So it depends on what happens during the game and your player style and stuff. Finally, moving on to the maneuverability. As I said, the Jagdpanther 2 is very maneuverable. It's got a speed limit of 55 kilometers an hour, which it will reach with that 700 horsepower engine, probably in flat ground and downhill. It's got a good traverse speed of 38 degrees per second, so it's going to be very difficult to circle this thing. And it weighs 53.85 tons, so it can ram if needed. And you know, it's definitely lighter than the Ferdinand, and it's faster, so that's probably why I'm going to like this tank a lot more than the Ferdinand, and I will be getting it as soon as it comes out. So that's the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed and I actually gave you a bit of information on these two tanks. So if you like the video, be sure to click like down below. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, and thanks for watching, and bye.